Whatu naro naro te tangata, Toitu te whenua. As man disappears from sight, the land remains.
In Aotearoa, New Zealand, every mountain or moka, river or awa, coastline or takutai moana carries a name, and with these names are the stories. Through the voices of local runaka, we uncover how names are more than markers. They are living connections to whakapapa, whenua and te reo Māori in modern times. In each episode, we invite viewers to see the land not just as geography, but as a narrative woven through generations. This is Toitu te whenua. E kōrero ana te whenua e whakarongo ana mātou, where the land speaks and we listen. In this episode, Te Runanga o Moiraki Upoko, David Higgins, shares the story of one of the great voyaging waka early Māori used to traverse the Pacific.
Ko te kohurau te mauka, ko kakau nui te awa, ko Moiraki te tūraka waiwai, tēnā koutou. Ko Rawiri Higgins takoigo, no Moiraki ahau. Kia ora, and welcome to Te Tai o Arai Te Uru, and more specifically to the beach of Te Kaihinaki. I want to share with you the story, the traditions, the creation stories of the Waka Atua Arai Te Uru.
Where we are standing is not far from one of the features most closely associated with Moiraki. Below us on the beach are the remarkable boulders. And indeed, there's a common thread that weaves its way from David Higgins' pepeha to those boulders, Moiraki and the stretch of coast. Uniting them all is a waka, Arai Te Uru, one of the double-hulled, ocean-going, voyaging craft upon which Aotearoa and Te Waiponamu's earliest inhabitants travelled to and from the Polynesian homeland. As the Upoko begins his story, the tau ihu, prow of the waka, sets its sights again on a landmass 4,000 kilometres distant.
The Waka Atua Arai Te Uru and her sister waka, Manukau, were due to depart Tapu Tapu Aotea in the Tahitian archipelago in the northern Pacific. And their task was for the crew to arrive back here in Aotearoa me Te Waiponamu with enough seeds and plants to ensure that when humans arrived in this land that they were able to sustain themselves by utilising these different vegetables. The plants they were to carry were taro and kumara. As the waka left, Arai Te Uru led out of Raiatea and Manukau followed. Unfortunately, the karakia that the crew on Manukau used for the journey was not appropriate, and all of their product spoiled on the journey across the great ocean of Kewa.
It would not be an epic journey if everything went to plan. However, the karakia recited aboard Arai Te Uru did their work, and the waka duly arrived at the tail of Te Ika a Maui, the North Island. Upon arrival at Te Tai Tokero, the crew disembarked and planted a marakai, a food garden, of both taro and kumara.
They then journeyed further south to a place called Tūraka, which is Poverty Bay, and at Muriwai on the southern shores of Tūraka or Tūranga, they planted another marakai of kumara and taro. Those marakai are still there today and are cared for by those different whānau and hapu of that particular area.
But the waka's journey was not done yet.
The waka then continued down to the Te Waiponamu and to the Kaikoura coast and stopped at the bottom of the Kaikoura Bay at a place called Oaro, where our Katikuri people resided, and again planting took place there at Kaikoura. Those marakai at Kaikoura are still there today, and the kumara still thrive. As the waka travelled further south, it got to just off the North Otago coast at Waitaki, and the waka started to sink lower into the water, so there was very little freeboard left.
A rogue wave washed one of the passengers overboard and she drowned. Her name is today attached to the rock at the river mouth Mokotera a Tārehu.
The atua on the waka travelled further south, past Moiraki where we stand today, and got to a place called Taki Te Uru, which is what is described today as Danger Reef off Matakaia or Shag Point, just south of the Kātiki Bay. It was there that a wave overtook the vessel and the waka was turned over, foundered, and ended up on the rocks at Matakaia. There today, presently, is a rock outcrop which signifies the upturned waka Araituru.
The shape of the waka can still be seen with its navigator Hipo standing on the hull. The remainder of the crew, who were all atua, Te Kohuro and Aoraki among them, made it ashore and began to explore the land, extraordinary in its vastness for travellers from small Pacific islands. As the crew gathered firewood and other materials, some were overtaken by the dawn and, unable to recite the appropriate karakia in time, were turned to stone.
And they became particular outcrops of land, peninsulas, mountains and rivers, and their names are resplendent in those places today.
Puketapu, which stands above Palmerston, and Pakihiwitahi, near Matakaia, are two such places. Of those who ventured inland, perhaps the most celebrated are Aoraki, Mount Cook, and his grandfather, Kirikiri Katata, Mount Wakefield, who went in search of their fellow crew members. Aoraki now rests on his paua, grandfather, surrounded by his siblings and cousins, who form Ka Tiritiri o Te Moana, the Southern Alps. But what of those mysterious stones? The boulders are commonly misnamed, as they are not in fact at Moiraki. Rather, they lie on Koekohe Beach, between Moiraki and Kurinui, Hamden, and are more properly referred to as Te Kaihinaki. Te Kaihinaki literally means the food baskets.
Those boulders represent some of the cargo that was on that waka, which include gourds and calabashes that were carried on the waka itself. The smaller boulders, which are about the size of a basketball, they represent the kumara themselves, and the golden sand from Moiraki represent the seed of the tubers.
Importantly, because this final chapter of the voyage played out here, where the waka's story is preserved in stone, it is this stretch of coastline from the Mata'o, Clutha River, to Waitaki that is known to this day as Te Tai o Araituru. Atua aboard the waka named various other features of the landscape to further establish a sense of belonging.
Now remember that this is only one of a number of different creation stories linked to this particular waka atua. But it's the Moiraki version. The fact that we have these wonderful and beautiful names throughout the island, particularly off this coast and further inland, is because we remember to remember. It's something that is important amongst our people, that you understand that some of the European names that were given to these places don't actually link very well and very kindly to our traditions and our histories.
The remembering has taken on a renewed focus in more recent times, as European names have been laid over many of the same natural features. To Moiraki Runanga's upoko, they don't link very well or very kindly to the traditions and histories of mana whenua.
If you go south from Moiraki, you get to just north of Palmerston, and there's a river there. They call it the Shag River. I don't know why they call it the Shag River, but its real name is Waihemo. And it's a beautiful name, a beautiful name. It means a lot of things to us, and it's part of that Ep5 story.
For all these reasons, the hapu and iwi of Te Tai o Ep5 ensure their names are shared from one generation to the next. To their rakatahi, young people, their tamariki and mokopuna, so they can understand who they are and where they come from. Indeed, for some of the uri, the descendants of the waka, embracing that heritage has involved travelling back to Raiatea to experience for themselves where it all began.
A lot of our uri, our whānau, have travelled to Raiatea. They've travelled to Taputapu Atea to visit the old place where those waka left from. And those traditions are as well known over there in the Tahitian Islands, or far distant Hawaii, as they are here. We share the same whakapapa. Interestingly enough, as you leave Raiatea in a waka, on the left, the hill as you leave is Aolaki, and the other hill on the starboard side is Moilaki.
As befits a story of the moana, the waka has left its mark offshore as well. David Higgins, once a commercial fisherman on this coast, knows many of the place names and Tauraka hi Ika, traditional fishing grounds, very well, as he has been fishing there since 1968.
And some of the fishing grounds, the Tauraka hi Ika off the coast here, are named after those atua, off the waka.
These include important groper grounds, Hapuka and Rawaru blue cod resources, long fished by the local whānau.
Those tauraka hi Ika are really important to us. That is a way of sharing some of that that knowledge that we've received from our elders.
When they were out at sea and looking back to the whenua and could see these moka atua, ancestral mountains, they knew where they were. These were important markers that indicated those fishing grounds.
My grandfather never had a fish finder or anything like that on board. He looked at the land. He looked back at the whenua and he knew where we were going. I mean, within a very small area, he could target a particular spot.
A similar sort of mapping plays out on the land as well, where names can indicate mahika kai, food and other resources.
All those lakes up the Waitaki, for example, and further up into central Otago, those lakes, Takapo, Oho, and further south at Oanaka, Ahawea, all named after those atua from the Ep5 waka atua.
Those names are now available to all through the online Kaitahu Atlas Kahuru Manu, a mapping project on which the Upoko has worked on himself. In terms of revitalisation and using Māori place names, karawhiua, give it a go.
Our kids use them all the time. These traditions are handed down. My children, my mokopuna, and others here at Moiraki understand this tradition really well.
In Aotearoa, the land speaks, not in words we hear, but in names, ancient, poetic, powerful. Each name is a living thread in the fabric of whakapapa, woven by generations who walked this whenua long before us. These are not just labels on a map, they are stories carried by rivers, etched into mountains, held in the land itself. Over time, many names were lost, changed, silenced, but the land remembers, and so do the people. This is a journey of rediscovery, of listening again to the voices of the land. Because when we speak the names, we do more than remember. We restore connection. We honour those who came before, and we awaken the stories. In the next episode of Toitu Te Whenua, we continue the stories behind the place names, and we hear from Justin Tipa, Kai Whakahaere, Chair of Te Runanga o Moiraki and Te Runanga o Ngaitahu. This is Toitu Te Whenua. The land remains, and so do the names.